Good morning, my colleagues. We're getting ready to start here. We're just waiting on a quorum. Good morning to the people of Guam. We'll get back to you as soon as we establish quorum to begin our committee in the whole. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to the people of Guam, and good morning, my colleagues. We'll be continuing with the Committee of the Whole on the Executive Branch, Chapter 5. We closed out Chapter 4 last night. Just a reminder, my colleagues, you'll have 2 rounds of questions with the OFB, and each senator is allotted 10 minutes for the first round, 5 minutes for the second round. If you yield your time, the time is fully transferred to the recipient and cannot be reclaimed or reallocated. Once the 2 rounds of questions are complete, the panelists will be excused. You have until the panel is dismissed to submit any floor amendments you wish to provide for Section 5, the executive budget. And then 3rd round, we'll go with the amendments or comments. Okay? Thank you, colleagues. I'm going to go ahead and turn.
Senator Ada,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, ma'am.
The Chapter 5 is just so many different related topics. I mean, every single agency of the executive branch. Can we just go agency by agency
Yes,
and then maybe cut the time?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine.
Okay.
Something
So
like that.
if I don't hear no objections, then we'll go ahead and cut the time. Any questions? Or first round will be 5 minutes, second round 5 minutes. Is that okay? Yeah, per agency. Okay. So if there's no objections, we're going to go ahead and cut the time from 10 minutes down to 5 minutes for the first and second. Any questions, we'll just go ahead and continue and move on. Thank you, colleagues. I'll go ahead and turn it over to OFB. Mr. Guerrero, we can go ahead and start, sir, and we'll just go section by section.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, we'll go ahead and start out with the office of Magaʹhågan, Guåhan. The total appropriation out of the general fund is $5,851,424. Indirect cost fund is $293,825 to a total of $6,145,249. Compared what's the level in the bill versus the EBR, it's exactly status quo.
Thank you, Mr. Guerrero. Would there be any questions for the office of the Magaʹhågan Guåhan? Any of my colleagues have any questions? Senator Tadiwi, you're recognized, ma'am.
Can you please explain what indirect cost fund is, please?
Indirect cost rates, Senator, are basically federal funds that are received that is recorded by Department of Administration for the administrative costs of the government of Guam to administer all federal grants under DOA's jurisdiction. So in every federal grant, there's a certain percentage, and it varies, could be 2, 3, 5, 15%, that you can charge for administrative costs on the bottom line of each grant award. So that indirect cost is deposited into an indirect cost fund, which is under the auspices of the Department of Administration. At the end of the year, it is only, I believe to my knowledge, it's only allocated to 3 agencies. I believe it's Governor's Office, BBMR, and DOA.
Thank you for that explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tadiwi. Any other questions on Office of Magaʹhågan Guåhan? There being none, Section A closed. B, Commission on Decolonization. Mr. Guerrero.
For the Commission of Decolonization, we have a total appropriation out of the general fund of $317,488. I believe that is the total appropriation for the agency for FY2026. There is a portion within the department's section that allocates $165,000 for the purpose of conducting an incentive public education information program with the Commission on Decolonization and the Free Association Independent Statehood Task Force pursuant to subsection 2109, chapter 21, title 1, GCA, for fiscal 26. And then it also has an allocation to be distributed of $55,000 to each task force for fiscal year 2026. The Commission on Colonization also has a status quo budget They're not requesting for anything above their level.
Thank you, Mr. Guerrero. Any colleagues have any questions, Commission? Senator Tidy, will you recognize, ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And also good morning to my colleagues and those who are listening this morning. Appreciate you hanging in there with us as we try to deliberate this budget bill. Steve, can you tell me on the Commission on Decolonization, if this funding has been spent from FY25, is there any lapses from last year, or did they spend the full amount from the last appropriation in 25?
Looking at the CER report as of September 30th, 2024, the total amount that shows as lapsing is $146,843. Bear in mind, this is an amount that's reflected at the end of the year, but it also may involve the reconciliation of all outstanding accounts, like accounts payable and stuff. Encumbrances, you have up to 90 days after the fiscal year ends to liquidate all those outstanding billings. So again, this is just a balance at the end of the September. It's a snapshot in time, but after 90 days, this balance could change.
I'm sorry, did you say 700,000? Oh, no,
No, 146,000.
Okay, 146,000 left in lapses for this particular event. I'm just curious if you might have this information. What was last year's expenditures on decolonization? Did they spend the full amount last year, and was there actually a lapse in FY24?
Again, the balance of 146 is the available balance at the end of the year. What they spent, again, according to the same report, is an equivalent of about $170,000.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tidy. Senator Guåhan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question. I know they're not here, or the governor's team, but just looking at their budget submission, would you happen to know what the contractual services on that line, what that entails?
If you give me a second, Senator, I'll pull out their budget and tell you.
Yeah, I pulled up their digest on OFB's website, but there's nothing in there that kind of illustrates that, if that's...
I just told them to both on that. They didn't anticipate those. Yeah, because it has the contracts on it. I don't have it with me because I saw my agency. I didn't download it. I only have my agency. Contract.
Rhoda.
They said this is the only contracts.
Senator, the only contracts we have listed, and this is based on the department's FY26 digest, is the Free Association Task Force. They're budgeting $32,000 for that. The Statehood Task Force, they're budgeting $32,000 for that. And the Independent Task Force is the same amount as $32,000.
Senator Guåhan, you're...
Yes, that's all. I mean, I was just, when we look at, I guess just based on the breakdown, just trying to understand if that, that's what, 32,000, 32, 1 second. Yeah, it comes out to about 96,000. So I'm just trying to understand what those were. But if he doesn't know, I can find out later. Mr. Chair, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Borja. Any other colleagues have any questions on Commission on Decolonization? There being none. Senator Parkinson.
Yeah, I don't really have much in terms of questions, but I do have a few comments. Throughout the community, the question and conversation about decolonization is getting a little bit more heat and more interest from our local population. And so while this year I definitely agree with keeping a status quo budget for the Commission on Decolonization, I think as public interest begins to ramp up in our community regarding this issue, I think that in future budgets that this body and our colleagues should consider upping the distributed amount to each of the decolonization commissions in a greater effort to educate the public, because there is a lot of, lost time in terms of getting the community engaged and up to speed on what the obstacles and problems are with changing Guam's political status. And so in the future, I would like my colleagues to be open to the idea of greater allocations of resources to educating our community so that we can finally answer the question of decolonization. The Commission of Decolonization was created in the 23rd Guam Legislature. We are now in the 38th. We are what's known in the history books as the stagnation era of decolonization, and I would like us to be the legislature and the generation that breaks us out of stagnation and to moving this question forward. And so I support the status quo budget for now, but in the future I would ask my colleagues to consider greater appropriation to the Commission on Decolonization so we can answer this question for our island. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Parkinson. Senator Barnett, you're recognized, sir.
Mr. Chair, and good morning to the people of Guam. Hope you're having a good Tuesday. Hope you're having a good Tuesday morning. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to just offer some comments on the issue of decolonization in general. So, Sidus Masi. I sometimes scratch my head and wonder why it is such a divisive issue when, in my opinion, if we're doing it right, it should be a big tent issue where many different people of differing opinions about our relationship or non-relationship with the United States of America should be able to come together. As you know, the analogy, I was thinking about this last night, the analogy of our relationship with the U.S. right now as the administering power, as the colonizer holds sway over us. It's really a situationship, you know. We're in a situationship where we're kind of in this political gray area, and we're just not moving forward. And so when you talk about decolonization, we should be able to gather folks who support an independent Guam, folks who want a closer relationship with the U.S., and folks who, you know, favor free association, which I've always thought is kind of an interim status. And I think part of why decolonization has become such a polarizing issue is because of the leadership that we've allowed to kind of drive this bus of decolonization. I mean, many of the prominent people in this movement are the independence supporters, and so I think that it's kind of got people of this knee-jerk reaction where they associate decolonization with independence, and that might be because the independence folks have been the most visible out in the community. But I think those who favor a closer relationship with the U.S., those who favor statehood, those who favor free association, also have valid viewpoints. And I think that this is a space where we can all come together and really kind of look at the way forward. You know, I think the farthest that we've ever got with this issue is engaging with the United States Congress. You know, I mean, we drove the Commonwealth car all the way to the U.S. Congress, and you know, if you kind of look back, I think the answer wasn't ever really no, it was just not now. And so this issue of decolonization, for me, there needs to be a great regrouping in how we pursue it and how we, for lack of a better term, market it, because it shouldn't be an issue that's driven by any one faction of supporters of any one of the political status options. And I think also we have to understand that why status quo isn't an option and why we should move forward into any of these other areas. And I really just hope that the information campaigns that we're funding, the education campaigns that we're funding, the textbooks that we're funding reach a wide swath of people, because again, this is an issue where everybody, all kinds of different people who don't necessarily agree, you know, a place where you could have Magaʹhågan and a Ron McNinch sitting at the same table advocating for what they believe is a better relationship with the U.S. And I think that it's really non-negotiable. You know, if you look at the dwindling number of colonies around the world, we have to believe as a people that we are good enough to evolve past this situationship that we have with the United States. And, you know, either, you know, when you're in a situationship, you either wife me up, make me your boyfriend or your girlfriend, and let's move forward with, you know, a meaningful status, right? And that's kind of, you know, I was just talking to my kids about this last night. And so I just wanted, Mr. Chair, to offer my thoughts on this issue. I believe that we should re-engage with the U.S. Congress. I think that, you know, we need to look at that one Guam approach that we've used previously and lobby the United States Congress to meaningfully address our political status and move forward in a way where all of the different voices at the table, all of the different supporters of the different statuses from independence, statehood, free association, come together and really debate and exchange ideas, and also put forth that education campaign so that we don't have this thought that status quo is an option, or we don't have this thought that for some reason the people of Guam aren't good enough to evolve past a status where really there's just a small handful of entities in the world that are still colonies. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for just my opportunities to speak on this morning. Sijus Masi. I think it's something with my microphone. Every time I talk,
You're just getting warmed up.
yeah. And it's stuck.
We're just having some audio problems with the microphones. We're going to go ahead and take a 1-minute recess while they reset the system.
The Committee of the Whole is now back in order. I understand we're on the first round, and I believe Senator Terlahi would like to speak. Is that correct? Or that was... Oh, okay. Is there anyone else who has any questions in this first round for Commission on Decolonization? Okay, so I would say then, is there anyone who has questions for the second round on decolonization? Senator Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to speak on some of the things the retiring speaker spoke of in regards to some of the educational materials. Earlier this year, I had made a very impassioned plea for one of the decolonization states. And at the time, I was invited by the director of the Decolonization Commission, Melvin Borja, to peruse myself of some of their work. In particular, their Guåhan, the study on decolonization. Big, thick book prepared by the Office of Decolonization. And he challenged me to read that book. And this was earlier in the spring when we were really deep into the conversation when we were between sessions, and I read the book. I read the book from cover to cover. And as somebody who has read the book in its entirety, I can say with a high degree of confidence that the investment in the educational tools we've empowered this agency with have been very, very good investments. And I would encourage everybody in this chamber and anybody at home who's interested in this issue to read that, because it lays out the entire history of the decolonization movement since its inception. And I learned a lot. I got to learn the history of how they were able to move past the question of status quo in previous generations. They had 2 elections, one in 1978 to say, should we change our political status? And then in 1982, they had another one to say, hey, let's make it Commonwealth. And then they negotiated for 14 years until 1996 when efforts to negotiate with Congress stalled. And then in the 23rd Guam Legislature created the Commission on Decolonization to move the effort forward past the stalled efforts. And they did their work, and we were on the verge of a vote until the Dave Davis case, which puts us right into the stagnation era we are now, leading us to the conditions of today. Those are just the broad strokes, the cliff notes for the people at home, but there is so much detail that goes into the study on decolonization that I would encourage everybody to read these documents, because they are very, very informative. And I would also like to say that my colleague is also right that there is this perception that decolonization means one particular state. It's often associated with independence. But to the people of Guam at home, decolonization does not necessarily mean independence. It means we have a choice between 3 valid choices: statehood, free association, and independence. Each and any of them are valid choices for decolonization. And for anybody that feels particularly strong about any of those political statuses, I would say to you that right now, we are not at odds with each other. If I'm a statehood person and you're a free association person and your buddy is independence, none of us are at odds with each other. We all want the same thing. We all want the island to be decolonized. So I would encourage all these different decolonization factions to work together so that we can fight the real enemy, which is stagnation. Stagnation in our political status. Territory status was never meant to be permanent. We were always destined to move on to bigger and better things. So, there will be a time where we will argue with each other about which is the better political status. But ultimately, any political status change is better than the status quo. And I would welcome all the other status movements to work together to make sure we have the vote. We are allies in that mission. And then if we want to have a spirited debate afterwards, I welcome that. And so I have a lot of love for the Commission on Decolonization, and I hope in the future we're willing to give it more funding. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Susmasi, Senator Parkinson. On the second round for Commission on Decolonization, anyone else like to be recognized? Seeing and hearing none, we will consider that section of the chapter having been heard. Now we move on to Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. Anybody wish to speak on the
Mr.
first
Chair?
round? Yes.
It's page 57, Guam Ancestral Lands Commission is after Commission on
Oh.
Decolonization. Yes.
My bad. Turned too fast. Sorry. Correction. We are now on Guam Ancestral Lands Commission. Anyone wish to speak in round one of Guam Ancestral Lands Commission? Anyone wish to speak on round two on the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission? Hearing and seeing none, that section has been heard. Now we go to Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. On round one, anybody wish to speak on the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs? Okay. I will now recognize Steve Guerrero, Director of OFB.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the Office of Veterans Affairs, their total funding for FY26 is $1,246,443, and it's all coming from the general fund. They received a $303,510 increase for retirement and adjustments and provided increment. Other than that, that was all the increase they saw over FY25.
Anyone wish to speak? Senator Barnett on the first round for Veterans Affairs.
Sidus Masi, Mr. Chair, and Manana Sidus to the people of Guam. Ayade, Biba Veterano. It's just a little disappointing, Mr. Chair, to see this recurring theme of, we just got done talking about status quo. And if status quo ain't good enough for a political status, then I'm not sure how well it works for a budget for a lot of these agencies. As we passed in the previous session quite a number of bills addressing veterans' issues, giving them the license plates, the waiving fees, and in a lot of those hearings,
Colleagues, and for the listening public, we will once again go into recess to reset our microphones. We're having troubles with our audio today. We are Committee of the Whole is in recess. Poll is back in order. Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Test. 1, 2, 1, 2. Sibilis. Si dos masi, Mr. Chair, and dispensa fanana maipi kuntosu. Every time I talk, it malfunctions the whole system. But so we're talking about the budget here, Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, for those of you who are watching on our YouTube stream. Si dos masi, and also those watching on Docomo and GTA, thank you very much. Just as we're getting a lot of issues with the YouTube stream cutting off, so it's always good to have it on the Docomo or GTA, so you can enjoy and watch the show and see what your duly elected representatives are doing. So thank you, Mr. Chair. As I was saying, in the previous session, we passed numerous measures that really put the veterans at in the spotlight as a body. We have declared Veterans Month. We have given the veterans veterans license plates, very specific to their service. We've waived fees in supporting the veterans, but if you attended the public hearings, there was one common theme from these veterans. They said, thank you for service isn't good enough. And I had always said that we need to make sure that we back up our support for the veterans meaningfully. And that's why this budget here for the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, Mr. Chair, is disappointing. You know, we can sit here and we can argue, as we've seen with previous chapters. We can say, oh, well, the executive budget request didn't fund it. But I don't understand that argument, because just because the executive budget request left the veterans in a lurch, left the veterans in a status quo situation, doesn't mean that we have to do the same thing. And again, it just goes back to the priorities of this budget session, the priorities of this committee. And the priorities were to dole out the business privilege tax reduction at a cost, at a impact, at a disastrous effect to critical public services. And so while we were bending over backwards over in the public hearing room talking about how much we support the veterans and we're going to do what we can to make sure that they can hire the VSOs that they need, that they can hire the maintenance staff that they need, it's just disappointing, because when you look at this budget, I don't see it. And in a moment of high political irony, there was a video that was recirculating that took place at the Veterans Cemetery, in which some of my colleagues said, give me the money or whatever it was. And the irony is, now the veterans are saying that to us, because we're not giving them the money. We're giving them a status quo budget that barely accounts for organic growth. And looking in the drive, the only amendment I see puts it on the governor. Puts it on the governor to transfer funds from agencies that we are already cutting down to the bone. How do you transfer something from nothing? How do you transfer something from nothing? We didn't tell the veterans that we were going to move out of the way and let the governor take care of it. I don't remember anyone saying that. We committed that we were going to take care of the veterans. But instead, we're taking care of the biggest of the big corporations. We cannot even give the veterans money to hire the people they need, because we have prioritized a business privilege tax reduction that has a price tag of $40 million this fiscal year and $40 million next fiscal year. So you mean to tell me we can roll out a $40 million payday for the biggest of the biggest businesses, but we can't take care of our veterans like we promised we would? Dale. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the chance to offer my comments. And again, I would urge the body to reconsider the half-point reduction in the BPT and implement a meaningful, tiered system that supports the small businesses and allows the biggest of the big corporations to pay their fair share, so that we can do things like fund the Veterans Affairs Office meaningfully. They're not asking for $20 million. They're not asking for $40 million. But I just don't like this position that we're taking, that, oh, we're just going to move out of the way and we're going to let the governor take care of it, when we're entertaining in this budget disastrous budgets for these agencies. And again, I just ask, how would the governor take something from nothing? Sidos Masi, Mr. Chair.
Susmasi, Senator Barnett, Senator Talatadegui, and then Senator Borja.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve, can you tell me what was the the governor's amount for veterans? What did she have to appropriate for them?
The total amount reflecting the EBR is about 1.5 million.
So she had a higher amount for the Veterans Affairs. Was there any justification to that? What was different? Because in FY25, we're staying status quo with the Veterans Affairs at 1.246443. That was the same that we gave last year, correct, Steve?
About 22,000.
Or did we give a little bit higher? Well, what was FY25? Let's just start with that. What did we give in FY25?
The amount, Senator, was 1.2 million.
Okay, so we're staying pretty much status quo. So the governor gives slightly more to Veterans Affairs in her proposed budget. So my question is, what was that justification increase? Mike, test.
The increase, Senator, was in personnel.
The increase was in personnel.
Yes.
Okay. Did OFB take that into consideration? Because I know that Veterans Affairs were looking for and needing additional personnel for registration, and I think they were losing some other people and people retiring, but of course they would take that funding. But what did veterans say to you? Why didn't OFB consider those additional personnel?
Senator, again,
And was it for the cemetery too? Because I know that they had issues on hiring people for the cemetery as well.
Again, as I stated, the way we formulated the ceilings was predicated on several factors. One of them basically is their current status and their current expenditure trend. Right now, based on their current staffing plan we submit in the budget, there's 11 vacant positions that are totally funded. So again, what we do is we go back and we look and it says, well, if the departments can't fill these positions, and I know that they say it's critical, but if they just don't have the ability to fill them, then I think it's more prudent for us to shift some of that money to other areas within the department that they will need extra funding, like in operations. Either be supplies, materials, equipment to cover the utilities, rather than to kind of like put all this money in personnel knowing they're going to lapse at the end of the year.
What happens, Steve, that if they're able to find people who want to work for, or they find people to work, employees, and they need the money?
Senator, again, like I said, we go back to trends. If the positions have been vacant for a long time.
Okay. Well, Steve, what is the difference between what we're appropriating and the governor's appropriation? What is that difference, variance?
It's about 261,000 less, Senator.
261?
1,000.
Okay, 261,000. Well, you know, We have to remember that Office of Veterans Affairs, also is now mandated to perform verification functions, with recent bills that were passed, in addition to personnel and lenience mandates. So I think we need to take that in consideration, Mr. Chair, and I think if we can find at least, 261,000 somewhere down the line as we're going through this budget, maybe we can make that appropriations and find it maybe in the miscellaneous appropriations or somewhere. But I think this is something that we need to do, because the last thing any of us want to see is who have been very active when it comes to public hearings, I can tell you. They come out in droves to talk to this body, to explain the issues that they're having. So I'm hoping, Mr. Chair, down the line that we can find at least, to bring them up to par based on bills that were previously passed and their mandates, that we find this 261,000. So other than that, Mr. Chair, I thank you for the opportunity.
Duly noted, Senator. Senator Borah, you're recognized. Looks like the regular mics are working right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Where do I start? I think when we start to talk about when we look at the Veterans Affairs, I will say, with working with Senator Salas Matanani when we first came in, when we look at the spending priorities, we look at the grant opportunities. When 2-3 years ago, the governor put out a release about the 13 million or something about the cemetery, they kind of stopped that because they wanted to resubmit it. And I'm not, and I think for me, Veterans Affairs, even before politics, it's never been about doing things for others, right? Like as a veteran, we sign up, we go to war. It's not for us. It's in the name of freedom. For me, it was coming from Guam. So when we look at what I can respect, and this is where I'm trying to understand, some of the claims in regards to we don't care about veterans. I'm just confused in how, and I can stand behind Steve's justification, and it just makes sense that you project things and you project spending based on data. And I get it. If you're spending, and I'll say this over and over again on any budget, any department. When I was in the military, it's not a business. It was the same thing. We give you $500 million. If you're not spending $500 million, I'm not going to give you $500 million. Not because you don't need it, but you have to learn to prioritize what's important based on past trends, and I understand that. Which is why, even at the time, it would make business sense, and this could be a leadership problem, not just at the Veterans Affairs, at GDOE, because when I was a leader managing $200-300 million to move units across the globe into wars, into combat zones, we knew every single dollar was spent because we knew that if we didn't spend, in fact, we tried to overcommit so that we showed that there was a demand, that we really needed it. Because we can say what we want in here to make people think that we don't care about veterans. And we can bring up the point about the things that happened before this body, and that's fine. I can own that, and I owned up to it. Because at the end of the day, I still go up there even right now with the money that they have to hire employees to still clean that damn cemetery. So if you want to, if some people in this body want to act like we're really doing a disservice to veterans, because I'm confused. I'm confused in how we stand up here and say we're fighting for things and the other people are not doing this, but we can say all that all day long, but even if we gave, give the veterans money. They gave up $13 million. I'm confused. How do we justify that? And I'm not sure, but we sit in here like the public is stupid. I'm confused, Mr. Chair. And I think for me, it's not. I'm just trying to, and if the previous speaker would like to yield to figure out, hey, Steve said it, how many positions unfunded that are funded, they still haven't filled. I'm in many veteran organizations. Again, it's a leadership problem. They have people that just left the Veterans Affairs office. I think the chair on Veterans Affairs has done a very good job in working with the Veterans Affairs office to address any types of issues or any concerns that they need addressed at the legislature. And I get it, even when I was in the military, even in the private sector, when you're going to submit your budget, try to ask for more, try to get as much as you can. Right? And at GDOE, same thing. Ask for more money. But are they going to spend it? And I stand behind the fact, and I stand behind OFB's decision to make a appropriation based on the trends. It just makes sense. Instead of trying, if it's just about making a statement, I could introduce 100 amendments to take money from somebody just to make a statement. I support Veterans Affairs. Let's take money from somewhere else. And if anybody else in this body thinks there's other things more important that we can take money from, I'm open to it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Point of personal privilege, Mr. Chair.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to, I take offense that I'm doing this just for whatever sound bite from the previous speaker, but I'm not going to give up on the veterans. They need assistance. Nobody's advocating for them. It's obviously now that, it sounds like the previous speaker is not advocating for the veterans, and it's ironic because I think he is a veteran. But Mr. Chair,
Point
like
of
I said
personal
earlier,
privilege, Mr.
like
Chair.
I said earlier,
Yes, I'll
Mr. Chair,
recognize you.
that
Let her finish.
I am
I'll
looking for the
recognize you.
money. I'm not giving up on looking for money for veterans. We've created legislation in this body that requires more mandate of the Veterans Affairs Office, and that's what we have to do. If we need to have these bills being acted upon, they need staff to do it. So I'm not going to stop advocating for our veterans. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Bora, you're recognized on a point of personal privilege. Thank you, Senator Bora. On the appropriation for Veterans Affairs. Anyone who
Dispensa,
wishes?
Mr. Chair, I just had a point of information, if I may, relative to the grant that was announced. Yes, I believe the administration got Magaďhågan to announce the awarding of this grant that was supposed to be for the upgrades at the Veterans Affairs Cemetery. But for those of us who paid attention and followed this issue and asked the questions about it, the situation was the award was given and then they prioritized our cemetery, and Guam is now in the queue to receive those funds. But it was, I believe it was a mistake, a campaign mistake for the administration to announce too soon the awarding of that grant, and everyone was anticipating that it would be received. But in discussing with the director...
Point of order.
Point of order. You're
Mr. Chair, that's
recognized.
not a point of information. That is...
Mr. Chair, I'm just clarifying the misstatements that were made on the record
point of
by one of the
information is an
retiring
inquiry.
speakers.
Please allow the speaker to
I'm fine.
make
If you
his
don't want
point
the
of
right
order.
information, that's okay.
yeah.
Sis
A point of
Masi.
information is an inquiry of information, for
Correct.
information. It's not to provide it. Thank
Correct.
you very much.
Legislature's back in order.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So Section 253 of the Masons Rules says the presiding officer should never permit a speaker to be heckled by questions nor permit a member to present arguments under the guise of questions. Just wanted to make sure that consistent with the speaker, a member should not be permitted to interrupt a speaker to ask questions of other members unless some urgent reason exists. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We are in order at this time, and the order is to recognize those who want to speak on Veterans Affairs appropriation. Senator Salas Montanani, you're recognized.
Since it was brought up about the grant for the Veterans Cemetery, it was a notice of funding opportunity. Yes, the administration misspoke when they said that they received an award for the $14 million for the expansion of the Veterans Cemetery. And when they came in for the oversight hearing, they failed to let everyone know that that notice of funding opportunity, they pulled it back. Not the National Cemetery Association, GOVA did, because it was a deadline of September to turn in the application. They told NCA we can't do it, and so now they're going to reapply and try to get this a grant for the expansion of the Veteran Cemetery. So we still don't know whether or not they're actually going to be awarded.
Excuse me, Senator. Vice, you please take the podium.
Mr. Chair, you're recognized.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Steve, how long have you been doing budgeting?
If you're talking about here in the legislature, this will be my 7th year, but at least in the field, it would be 42 years.
In your 42 years, particularly at BBMR, wasn't it your practice to basically monitor agencies throughout the fiscal year to see how their expenditures and how their hiring and everything is going in order to manage their budget?
Absolutely, Senator.
Steve, when agencies are having difficulty for some reason in hiring, when agencies are having difficulties in procurement, when agencies are accumulating lapses, don't you normally advise the governor from fiscal year to fiscal year, you know, let's take a 3-year average and set this ceiling because for some reason this entity is just having difficulty, and if you continue to appropriate this level, you're taking away from other vital services?
To some extent, yes, Senator, we do. Again, the function of the Bureau of Budget basically is just to monitor basically the operations of the government going financially, making sure that all the requirements and needs of the agency departments are basically covered and sufficient appropriations are available to meet the needs of the agencies and departments throughout the fiscal year. We do, I recall at the Bureau of Budget, we do in constant contact with the agencies to advise them and let them know, to say, hey, you know, what are your difficulties? What are your challenges? Do you know that you have all this money? What is your budget plan? And every year, I believe by October 14th, or October 15th of every fiscal year, they are required to submit an allotment plan to the Bureau of Budget, which kind of dictates and delineates how they plan to spend their appropriation throughout the year.
Steve, in BBMR, aren't there analysts that basically have a certain agencies that they oversee and they monitor their budgets throughout and consult with them?
My history, the Bureau of Budget, yeah, when I was an analyst there, we were all assigned specific departments that we were to monitor and govern and advise them throughout the year. But yes, we are assigned, every department is assigned an analyst.
When you were there and other analysts and you had politicians, senators, others just screaming out there that, you know, these agencies aren't getting what they asked for, these agencies, how come we didn't give them more? I mean, didn't that kind of, did you take offense to that sometimes, knowing that here you are sitting there managing their budget and the general public doesn't even understand that some of these agencies are lapsing 10, 15, %. And how can anyone who doesn't know constantly continue to say, give more, give more, give more, when the agency, it can't even spend the appropriation that they currently have?
Senator, in all fairness to the departments and agencies, and I'll tell you this, when appropriations are authorized in a budget act for any given fiscal year, departments are entrusted to make sure that they spend these appropriation wisely and within the confines of the law. There are other things outside of the agency that sometimes make that difficult to do. And like I said, it's just more or less the system problem, a systematic problem. It could be in the recruiting. Remember, there's like 3 agencies involved in recruitment. in the procurement of requisitions and purchase orders. So it's not necessarily truly the department, although I honestly believe that the departments and agencies do try their best to expend their monies. But there are other challenges that are beyond their control. But again, it's all a matter of timing, it's all a matter of planning, it's a matter of just following up and making sure these things are done.
You know, Steve, you were the one who's always impressed on me, and I appreciate all of your tutelage and your guidance. That, you know, always make sure that your appropriation authority is adequate, but do your best not to exceed it, because that's where a lot of miscommunication and things come down, where you think this appropriation is there, but yet you give all this authority, but yet what you're really doing internally at an executive level is you're doing cash management. Sometimes the agencies with the reserve, it's not necessarily their fault either, right? It's the top, basically, that makes that decision whether or not that money moves or not sometimes, right?
You're correct, Senator.
Steve, because I know we're going to have this constant reoccurring theme, and that's fine. I get it. Just for the record, once again, and I guess we'll point this out throughout the budget. Right now, with yesterday's appropriation level, basically the governor's level and our level is almost identical, correct?
You're correct.
Okay. So you would say that no matter how much we scream to the hilltops, the truth is in the end, and this is the final thing, because I know this happened to me when I was running several agencies. The way I did it was, when I really needed something, I'm going to go down there and park myself in the front office. And I'm going to say, look, you know, I know you got a reserve on me. Here's my petition to you. I put it down in writing. I said, this is what I need. This is critical right now. And I always got what I asked for. Isn't that a practice for directors when they really need something? Is, you know, appeal to the higher authorities down there to make sure that, you know, you can get done what you need done, what you've identified as priority.
Senator, there is a process to get everything done in the government, whether it be through the recruitment process, processing of requisitions, getting a purchase order done, signing a contract. And you try to follow that process. But every once in a while, you're going to run into some moguls, if not a mogul, a mountain. And you as the agency head need to figure out a way how to get around those obstacles. And one of the ways, especially as an agency head, you would like to work with the administration, at least with your higher-ups, with the governor, the lieutenant governor, your chief of staff, to move it. And there are ways that, you know, a department head can do it, but it's just, you know, you just need to be aggressive. You need to constantly follow up. And I know after a while, sometimes it becomes challenging, but sometimes there's no other option. And that's just what you need to do. And like you said, a lot of times in the past, and I've been in the Bureau budget for a long time, I've seen department heads sit and camp at the governor's office trying to get one requisition out, one contract out, pleading with the administration, hey, I need this done. And ultimately, sometimes, and you know, I mean, unfortunately, it boils down to that, rather than just the conventional way, submitting it in, let the system, you know, take its course. But you're right. I mean, if you really need to get things done and you can't get things done in the conventional way, you be creative and get out there and do what you need to do.
So some on this floor will say that they think that a magic number creates all of this opportunity, where the truth is, sometimes it doesn't even matter what the number is. If it's adequate within your budget and you're constrained, you're constrained.
That's correct, Senator.
The other side is, if you're given the liberal opportunity, a lot of times they'll let you keep going when they identify your need. And when you get towards the end, if for some reason you overexpend, they'll handle it through the magic word that happens now, I guess, only in the last 2 months of the fiscal year, is they'll cover it with transfer authority to make sure that they can true up the accounts, correct?
The transfer authority is one way to cover shortfalls within the executive branch, yes.
Steve, in my final notation on this, you've always mentioned to me that the perennial entity for transfer authority requirement, because of the nature of their work and the like, is across the public safety agencies. Isn't that correct?
Historically, in looking at the data, when we look at the CERs and the reports, the agencies and departments that normally perennially incur shortfalls are normally the public safety, simply because of their nature of operation.
I hope we've been able to bring a little bit more light to the body in terms of, what an estimate, like you said, Steve, of a budget is. It's a living document. Any chief executive has authority to move within the agencies that chief executive has control over, and to make any entity correct as needed. Veterans Affairs, my goodness, under the executive branch and the governor's office. Jesus Masi, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Anyone else on the Office of Veterans Affairs? Senator Lai.
Jesus Masi. I remember the veterans coming in, I think maybe it was an oversight hearing, and at that time they gave an update on all of their work, and the director of the Office of Veterans Affairs, Mr. Joseph Augustine, told us at that time that he was expecting a $2.3 million budget in fiscal year 2026. And then he outlined all of their responsibilities and what the difference was between the governor's request at 1.5 in January and what they needed. Part of it was 6 permanent cemetery workers, 6 veterans service representatives. And I think these positions are vacant because the veterans service representatives, if I recall correctly, were supposed to be certified, and they weren't fully certified despite the training that they went through, but that should be happening between then and FY2026, so I'm pretty sure they want to bring those on. They talked about a veterans convention, a lifting service for the canopies, computers, scanners, the $340,000 for the driver and the vehicle that was appropriated last year, separate from the budget. They said they're looking for funding for another backhoe because the Parks and Rec is the one helping them with the backhoe and mowing and bush cutting. And they talked about many things, the cemetery, but they also talked about their office, and they said there's no room at the office, and they were expecting to go to the Hessler building. That was a promise that was made to them, that they were going to move out of Assen and go into the Hessler building. And I know that we found out that the Hessler building, Public Health was actually paying rent for that building. It wasn't free for them. And that was about, where's that? Oh, I wrote it down. 600,000, I think. And so we asked them, how are you going to pay for that? But so I just worry that cutting their budget, first of all, below the governor's request at 1.5, and it says we're cutting personnel, like this is not the time to cut their personnel. They've been trying to build up cemetery workers plus, more importantly, or equally important, the veteran service officers. After their training, they really very much intend to hire those. So I don't think we should go below the governor's request, and that's $300,000 more than what the current budget reads. And I think that we should try to find a way to meet their requests, which they said at the oversight hearing was for that $2.some million. So we're about $500,000 short of what they said they needed to do the work that they want to do, and we're definitely $300,000 short for them to get the personnel that they're counting on, or even to bring it up to the level of what we appropriated last year. If we include the driver for the vehicle for taking the veterans to healthcare appointments. But I want to thank Mr. San Augustine there and his staff for their very hard work under these conditions, and I'm just looking to Chair and OFB to see what we can do to add to this. Si Diyos masi.
Jesus Masi, Senator. On the Veterans Affairs section, round one, Senator Perez, you're recognized.
Thank you. Steve, what is the lapsed amount for the Veterans Affairs?
Are you referring to it this year or FY24?
Whatever they didn't spend, yeah,
In
this
FY
year and previous year.
In FY24, based on the CR report, there's $343,000 of lapsed funds.
343,000. Okay, and what's
343.
how about? Do you know 25 yet? That's too soon, right? To know what's lapsed currently. I'm sorry.
As of the June CR report, the current lapses is $648,000.
Okay.
Point of information, Mr. Chair. As I said, they testified to us the reason they're not able to hire them is because they're waiting for the final certification, which was part of the grant. So when they get that, they are absolutely going to hire those people.
Senator, I'm just responding to her question, what they intend to do. I hope they do it. I also like to say that if in the FY26 budget, we did budget for 5 positions, both salary and benefits.
Yeah, the reason why I asked is because the Trump bill is cutting, the plan was to cut over 800,000 jobs in the Veterans Affairs, and that would really delay the processing of their claims. And so whatever we can do to our local Veterans Office of Veterans Affairs to support them fiscally or financially, that would help to mitigate what's happening on the national scene. And so, yeah, I think it's critical that they continue to receive their lapse funds, whatever it is. And I'm glad to see that there's money there that we can continue to appropriate to them to help mitigate whatever's happening. And even though, yeah, the Trump administration backed down from 800,000 cuts in the Veterans Affairs, they've lost 17,000 employees. And by September, there will be 12,000 lost. And this has a true impact because now the doctors and nurses, they have to carry out the administrative burden. And so it's affecting the health care of the veterans. And so, you know, I think it's critical as a body to ensure that we continue the support of the Veterans Affairs. Thank you.
Masi, Senator. On the section of Veterans Affairs, anyone wish to speak? On round one, Senator Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. $1,246,443. That's what we are appropriating to the Guam Office of Veteran Affairs. Now, I'm not going to make any value judgments on whether that is a good or a bad thing. That's currently what we got funded. We will leave that decision to the people of Guam if that is enough. This is not my first budget. I have been part of budgets that before I thought didn't give enough to our veterans. We don't have a conversation in here of should we give the veterans $40 million. But we do have that conversation for the top 1% of businesses. And it really speaks to priorities. And I'm not excluding myself from that. I've had priorities. I had 150 million priorities in advocating for power credits, for money in people's pockets directly to offset the high cost of living. Hello, hello? Sorry, my mic went dead there. I could have taken that same energy with me into other areas. And maybe I have. Hello, hello. Maybe Filipino Elvis it is then. Let's try it with this mic. And I could have possibly taken that same energy that we took to things like the power credits and agricultural services after Mawar, and hiring new fire cycles for GPD and GFD. But we didn't. We kept it at very modest levels. But what we have here is even less modest than what we had before. And I'm not sure if this is the right place to be exercising austerity measures. And the governor doesn't really have a budget. The executive branch doesn't adopt the budget. We adopt the budget. What they make is a suggestion. And if both of our suggestions shortchange the veterans, maybe that's on us, and maybe we should consider doing more for them. I know one of my colleagues has amendments to potentially plug some of their shortfalls, and I look forward to speaking on it and supporting it. But when the veterans come and say that they need some help, we should probably listen to them. Instead of when the businesses come here and says, give me my money, we give them $40 million. And then they come down to the chamber and lord over us from the balcony. And what do? We gave them another $40 million the next year. When you take it all told, that's going to cost us $120 million. $40 million this year, $80 million next year. What can the people of Guam do for public safety, education, the hospital, the veterans, if we had $120 million more? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Point of information, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I just got off the phone with the Veterans Affairs just to find out about these lapses for my colleagues. In FY24, the lapses that were used, supposed $300,000 were used for the construction of the cemetery. So that money has been spent for that. Then right now, they are trailing only $80,000 in lapses right now. And they're hoping to use that lapses to buy the new computer to upgrade on their software. So that's the information I just got from the ASO over at the Veterans Affairs. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hello? Yes, okay. Again, the question was asked, what was the available balance? And I am citing the CER report, which is the official financial document of the government of Guam, for both the FY24 level and the FY25. If you look at the current expenditure report for the Office of Veterans Affairs, it'll show you what they're spending up to date. It is reasonable to say you take that total amount and divide it by 9. That is your monthly expenditure trend. There's 3 months left in the fiscal year. I multiply that sum by 3 months and it gives me a total of what they're projecting to expend based on their expenditure trend. I can't see how a department will spend $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in 9 months and expect to spend $600,000 in 3 months. That's not how it works. So that's why I'm saying
Mr. Chair,
the
I'm
number
just
that I
saying,
cited.
Steve, I'm not questioning what you're reading on here. I'm just telling you what I just got off the phone with Veterans Affairs, and they are telling me that's what the money was spent for. I believe, yes, there was a lapse in 2024. That's not a problem. I'm telling you that that money they believe is gone, it's already spent because they're working on the construction of the cemetery. That's all I'm saying. Now, if there's any changes, Steve, I would recommend that you, because Veterans Affairs are important to us, many of us at least on this floor, but I ask that you, after this, when you have your break, to call them up to get the true numbers so that we're not there's no mistake, okay? I'm not blaming anyone or anything like that. I just want to know the real numbers. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I appreciate, Senator, your audacity to check with them and find out what it is. But when I do things, I do check with the departments, but I also check in the financial statements, which I hope that is the most important document we use to govern ourselves financially in the government of Guam. So when the two numbers vary in distinct variants, then for me, it's easy to tell me what you're going to do in the next 3 months. You haven't done it in the last 9 months. Not to say if they can do it or not, that's not for me to judge. But for the last 9 months of historical data that tells me that you're only spending 1/3, 1/4, or half of your appropriation, that's how I judge my thing. But not to question anybody else. And I'm not even going to question the body of what they feel is important. That's not my job. My job is to provide you what I'm being provided with. And I will speak with the information I have, which I can support. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, again, and hope you make that phone call.
Yeah, and we do want to make that phone call. As the chair of OFB, I want to say this right now. I'm alarmed that an official document that's submitted as a report, we don't generate this report, colleagues. This is generated by the executive branch. This CRER is generated by law. So what the OFB chair is reading out is a certified report. So I'm going to tell you right now, for me, I take a certified report better than a phone call. Okay? Because I could make a phone call right now and, tell my investor I got $1 million. Put it on the Niners. But when he goes to place the investment, it's going to say, show me the money. On the Veterans Affairs section, round 1. Anybody wish to speak? Senator San Augustine, thank you.
All right, we know which mic works. Mr. Chairman, a couple years back, and the OLB remembers this, we passed a bill that authorized $300,000 for the Veterans Affairs to buy a van to be able to transport veterans. And then we passed a bill that authorized them $1 million appropriation to fund the veterans benefits. No, for the veterans to be hired so they can, the VSOs, there you go. And my colleagues, halafani handbrake did okay? Because number one, I'm one of the few here that is a veteran, and I continue to advocate for Veterans Affairs. But my question to OFB, because last year we passed on the budget to keep that money moving until they get their mobile van and get the VSOs, stabilize the hiring of the veteran cemetery folks. Does that money still exist? And other than this 1.2 that's in the budget. That's 1.3. I don't know if they spent anything. I'm curious to know, because if you're reporting 6 and 3, that's pretty close to the money that we gave them. And the Manapon Labs, I don't see a van down there. I don't see any VSOs, that many VSOs. So I'm just curious. Maybe you can answer that. Or maybe we need to pass an amendment to keep that moving until they do get the van. And if they're not going to get the van, at least let them tell us, we're not going to get the van because we don't know how to get it. You know what I mean? We're not going to hire the VSOs because we didn't certify the folks that already went to the class. We're not going to hire the cemetery workers because, number one, they don't qualify. Come up with a better excuse other than lapsing. Because this body can't continue to push for financial support for them if they're not doing anything. It's got to go somewhere else. And the veterans outside will get mad because they're not doing anything. And let them get mad, because I will still back the veterans. Yes, Mr. Steve.
Senator, not to reference the two amounts that you noted, but in the June 30th, 2025 CER report, the carryover balance of $325,000 is still intact. They have not utilized any of that carryover balance as of the June 30th CER report.
But in reference to the total $1.3 million, is that still intact? Do you know if you can verify? Because what you're appropriating here is what they normally would get appropriated every year. The 1.3 is an addition to help them. And that was supposed to be even sufficient where they never need, not never, they wouldn't need an increase the following year because until they spend all that money, they don't need anything beyond their normal appropriation. I'm just trying to understand it. You know, you need money when you haven't spent money.
Hopefully, Senator, if you give me a little time, I want to see if I could track those two appropriations, but right now I can't give you an answer.
All right, thank you. And when we find out, maybe we can address that in the miscellaneous. We don't need to hold back the Veterans Affairs any longer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Steve Masi, and I appreciate that, Senator San Agustin. And Senator Talutadegui, since you brought it up and you've spoken to them, can they email the committee on Office of Finance and Budget on their current? Because it's nothing like the report that they've submitted.
Sure, Mr. Chair. Yeah, since I'm already in conversation with the ASO right there, and in fact, Mr. Chair, I think I'd like him also to incorporate that some of the Trump cuts that are happening right now, they're affecting them already at the agency. So, you know, we're going to see some shortage here, Mr. Chair, from these Trump cuts, and it's going to get to a point where they're going to seek our assistance to help our veterans. So let me talk to them and send it over to OFB.
Can you have them email that too?
Sure.
The current real-time effects?
And what's happening to them right
Yes.
now. I greatly appreciate your interest in this. Thank you, Mr.
I'm
Chair.
very
I
interested.
will do that.
We're going to
Thank
be
you.
looking at our email with bated breath.
Thank you.
On the Veterans Affairs, Senator Montanani, you're recognized.
Test. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, I have also been in communication with the director of GOVA, Mr. Jose San Agustin, and he also did mention that there was $80,000 in lapses, but I'm more inclined to go with the numbers that are in black and white with which OFB just reported, and the amendment has been put into the hopper regarding carrying over those lapsed funds from the current fiscal year and previous fiscal years to help the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. But I do want to say that any kind of accusations or anything like that certain members of the legislature aren't paying attention to our veterans, aren't fighting for our veterans, just absolute BS. Because I know that I have been fighting for the veterans. Vince Borja is a veteran. Sean is the son of a veteran. Tony Atta is a veteran. The speaker is a veteran. So many of us have our connection to veterans. And another thing, when I was elected, GOVA, again, I have oversight. I went down to visit GOVA. Yes, their office it's sad because it's not ADA compliant. When I went up to the second floor, again, wow, no senator has ever come upstairs. And when I went up there, it was terrible. Everything is in boxes. If a typhoon came, it's gone. All those records. thousands of documents gone. And again, I just got here. I'm a new senator. There are senators that have been here. Look in the mirror. What have you done? Thank you.
Excuse me, Senator Montani. On Veterans Affairs, anyone else wish to speak? Veteran, Senator Vice Speaker Toniata.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All morning, at least in this section for the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, I've dealt with the Veterans Cemetery for many, many years. Since I've been home, actually, in my family business that we dealt with them. This is not a new issue of shortages of staff and things like that. But also, it's not a matter of being short on funds, because the Veterans Affairs offices went from $500,000, I believe, to $700,000, up to $1.2 million. But yet, the services that is given out down at the Veterans Cemetery remains status quo. Is it a matter of funding? Or is it a matter of priorities in getting the personnel, in getting the equipment? When you buy a backhoe, that's a durable equipment. Proper maintenance will make it last for 20, 30 years. The casket devices, the lowering device, those are durable equipment. Those are not replaced every 2 to 3 years. When you do your proper maintenance and you do you care for the equipment, it will last you for years. I still have equipment at my place that is 30, 40 years old, and it's still operational. And that's what it comes down to. Does anyone, I was just listening when they say, who cares about veterans on this floor? We all do. But it's not about the whether we care for the veterans or not. It's what the leadership is providing at the different agencies and departments. We talk about the priority and the spending today, but since 2022, when this government was flushed with billions of dollars, there was an opportunity to take out prior year obligations. There was an opportunity to do vendor payables. There was an opportunity to buy equipment. There was an opportunity for everything else. And I just don't understand why it keeps coming up about this $40 million of the 0.5 BPT when they had billions of dollars, they had BPT at 5%, and still the services were the same. Nothing improved. When we hear about the Veterans Cemetery, you hear about them having DOC come down to cut grass. They have Parks and Rec help them out, but yet they have a lapse funding. So it's about holding these folks accountable to ensure that the funding that they get for their agency or department, that they use it for what it's supposed to be. If the VSO is what we need, get VSOs down there. Hire them and send them to training. Why are we waiting for them to get trained, then hire them? Cemetery workers. I think they were on limited appointment only, and not permanent workers. Why would we want to keep them LTAs and not bring them on full-time, knowing that we have the funding? They had the funding to do that. It's just like any other LTA. I don't know what my future will be, so I'm not going to stay here any longer, versus being a classified employee. So, Mr. Chair, we just need to look at, and Mr. Guerrero's absolutely right, That financial document, that's the rule. And that's what it says, and that's what it's given to him. Now, if they're saying that he only got $80,000 left, the director should find out where the remaining funding is because what is reported versus what is said are two different things. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
On Veterans Affairs, anyone else wish to speak that hasn't spoken yet? Seeing and hearing none. On Veterans Affairs, round 2, anyone wish to speak? Senator Guåhan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, one of the things that I at least want to make sure I make a point to say today when we talk about Veterans Affairs, because, I agree that we try to do the best we can with what we have with local appropriation. But, in the middle of everything going on in round 1, I kind of forgot that we need to also, but really the focus should be on really ensuring that the Department of Veterans Affairs, you talk to any veteran, it comes down to, one of the biggest things that we need to help with is getting them access to, not getting them their benefits, right? And then access to healthcare, which again, it's a very complicated and complex problem that, from all the different nonprofits that are working to address this and to assist veterans with, is that I think really the call to action today, aside from, of course, continuing to press GVAO in using the resources they have available to assist veterans, is that we as leaders, for myself, even before a senator, is continue to press the Department of Veterans Affairs to do what they should do for veterans. They're not asking for anything more than what is owed to them. You look at a lot of, Vietnam veterans who are still trying to get their claims processed, to get what is owed to them. We have, spouses who veterans have passed away. God bless, the ranking member and the help that she got to get the benefits, entitled to her as a surviving spouse for her husband. And that's really the call to action today, that we as leaders, we continue to press the Department of Veterans Affairs. Washington, D.C. sent us to war. We need to tell Washington, D.C. to take care of our veterans. And I think that's the message that I want to leave today. And I encourage my colleagues, you want to help veterans? You're more than welcome to come down on Saturdays at the Veterans Cemetery. There's lots of cleaning to do. They won't turn you away. You want to help veterans? Find a nonprofit. They will take you, and you don't have to be a veteran to help a veteran organization. They will take your help. You want to help veterans? Go find them an UMCO that does not have VA benefits. They will be happy if you pick up the phone at midnight and call the VA office for them to help them with their claim. So if we want to help veterans, and you want to fight for veterans, those are really easy ways that you can help veterans. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Jesus Masi, combat veteran, Senator Vince Borja. On round 2, Veterans Affairs, anyone like to speak? Senator Taitigui, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'll make this short, so we can move forward and providing the assistance that the veterans need, and the advocacy from this room, to push forward, and it's not going to end, because the issues that our veterans face today is not just the cemetery. It's getting the health care they need. It's getting the assistance in real time. Having to go through Hawaii, we did resolutions to try and help them, but it's not enough to allow our veterans to seek the assistance, the same kind of assistance they receive in the mainland. We are seeing more of our veterans leave this island to go in states like Texas because they are given full benefits on veterans. I don't know about you, but my father is a veteran. My brother-in-law is a veteran. Many of my good friends are veterans, and I've seen them struggle, many with PTSD. It's not just the cemetery we have to look at, we have to look the full picture. Those who gave the ultimate sacrifice to defend our democracy, to defend freedom. Now, I'm glad the Oversight Chair of Veterans actually realizes they do need more money, Mr. Chair, because there's an amendment in here requiring for almost, I think, $1 million more to the Veterans Affairs. So for anyone in this body to say they don't need any additional funding, look at the oversight. It's asking for almost additional funding, $1.1 million more. So I don't understand. We're sitting here nitpicking for veterans? Are you kidding me? The majority of the people on this island, we have the highest ratio of those enlisting in the military per capita. Per capita. So we need to find the funding for this, Mr. Chair. Regardless of what it is, and we need to cover the cuts that they're going to have through the federal side, which they're experiencing right now. So I appreciate everyone's, push on this and their support for our veterans. And we need to do this every day, not just on Saturday. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Jusmasi, Senator, on round 2 for the veterans. Seeing and hearing none, we will take a recess to distribute the amendments and discuss the amendments. We are in recess. Correction, we will be on amendments when we complete the chapter. I apologize. We are in recess. So we are live, and so now we are having already completed Veterans Affairs. We are moving on to Bureau of Budget and Management Research. Anyone wish to speak on BBMR first round? 5 minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is OFB going to give us an explanation?
Yes,
Okay.
they're just sitting down to do that now. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. For the Bureau of Budget and Management Research, their appropriation out of the general fund is $1,239,837. They also get a portion of the indirect cost fund. That amounts to $476,313 for a total sum of $1,716,150. Their request is a status quo request of FY25. Which is exactly the same as the EBR.
Thank you, Director Guerrero. On round 1 for BBMR, is there anyone who would like to speak on BBMR round 1? Senator Perez, you're recognized.
But now we're using this term net unobligated fund. So can you clarify what the difference is if we were talking about we're trying to find a fund source for different agencies.
Yeah. Let's get a mic for.
Yes, Senator, if you're just asking the difference between the two terminology, unappropriated is basically funds that are available and that have not been appropriated. Okay? The other one I believe you're asking is, what's the net? Net unobligated. And then the net unobligated basically is, after everything is done, that final balance number, that's what we use as the net unobligated.
Okay, so is there a difference?
Well, if you're talking about appropriation on top, if it's unappropriated, it's still available. If you're talking about the net portion on the bottom, that's after you take everything into consideration, that's the amount available. Whether or not funds are available to appropriate from either way, yes, you can do it.
So does it matter when we're writing our amendments whether we use either term?
The net obligated, we refer to normally as the end of the bottom of the report. Appropriations is anything at the top that you may want to appropriate from or transfer from an existing appropriation.
Okay, so I'm not sure if I'm clear on what you're saying. You're just basically stating that they're different, defined differently, but how we actually implement it could be the same way.
Technically, Senator, they're one of the same. There's really no difference.
Okay, and the term excess, is that different from those two other terms?
Yes, when we use the word excess, we use it in the current fiscal year. So anywhere from October 1st to September 31st, we normally reference anything in excess of the projected amount. That's the terminology we use. At the end of the year, after the end of the fiscal year, we're using the term net surplus, net unobligated surplus.
So what if we're reimbursed, there's a delayed reimbursement? You know, what is that? Is that considered a unobligated fund? Let's say we get reimbursed for previous years. Let's say in 2024, we finally get the cash from the federal government. So, what would be the best term to use for an amendment?
If we're using, I believe, funds that Governor Guam receives as a reimbursement for funds it paid out in the beginning, it would be deposited back into the general fund. And I would, at that point, I would say it's unobligated.
Okay, so we'll continue to use this term unobligated funds.
On reimbursements, yes, for actual reimbursements.
Or we can use unappropriated.
Yes.
It would be the same.
Yes.
Almost. Okay, thank you.
Senator Perez. On round one for BBMR. Anyone wish to speak? On round two for BBMR. Anyone wish to speak? Seeing and hearing none, we're moving now to Department of Administration. Or Civil Service Commission, correct. We are now on Civil Service Commission. Anyone wish to speak on Civil Service Commission? Round one. Civil Service Commission, round two. Seeing and hearing none. Maybe that's why I went quickly to Department Administration. Department Administration, round one. Anyone wish to speak? Senator, Ranking Member Tina Rose Bunya-Barnes, are recognized.
Thank you there, Vice Speaker. Mr. Chair, thank you for giving me the opportunity. The question here is, I know Mr. Burns not here, but are there any projected lapses in expenditures for the residential treatment fund? And if so, what were the actual expenditures drawn from this fund in fiscal years 24 and 23? Mr. Chair, is OOB's going to answer that?
Yes,
Okay.
give me just.
Thank you, I can't see.
Yes, give me a second, Senator.
Thank you.
That's administrative support. Go down. Go down to South Public Health. DOA residence retreat fund. This is as of when? What year? Two 275? Why does it say 275? Okay, but that's for 25. What's 24? Yeah, yeah. No, put it back, Let me see. Let me see the 25. The 466, okay. That's how much the projected is lapse? Oh, they will spend everything. For 25. So only the same part of the here. Oh, 24. Okay, Senator, to your question, I'll start it with the FY24. Based on the CER report as of September 30, 2024, there's a balance of 673,792. For FY25, based on their expenditure trend, they're expected to spend and exhaust the entire 2.5 million.
Steve, one more time again. So for fiscal year 2024, there was 673,792 that was expended?
No, that is the available balance.
Available balance for 2024.
That's
and then
correct.
for fiscal year 2023?
Oh, 2023? I did 24 and 25. Let me see if I can get 23. Just give me a second. Okay, Senator, for FY23, September 30th, they have a total of available balance of $100,876. Now, again, let me just note this, okay? These are the balances as of September 30th, which shows a snapshot in time. There, as time goes by, especially when it comes to these types of accounts, billings are still outstanding. Billings will come in after September 30th, and they will be charged most likely to these appropriations. So at least we know what the balance is at a particular time, and this time it's September 30th, but what the real balance is 6-10 months down the line might be a little bit different from what these balances are reflecting.
Thank you, Steve. My next question, thank you for that information. My next question is, there's a 4.9 million appropriated to operate the streetlights around the island, and this primarily comes from the streetlight fund. So my first question is, the trend of this special fund over the last couple of years, is it consistent going up or going down?
Let me check it. Hang on just for a second. Solid waste. 23, it's the same. 24, it's the same. 25 is the same. 26 is the same. Senator, going back to maybe as far as FY23, what we show here in terms of what we've been in the audit shows a consistent amount of roughly about 4 million to 4.1 million. For 23, it's 4 million. For 24, it's 4.1. For 25, this is based on the Budget Act, it's 4.1. And for FY26, it's the same level at 4.1. So there, it shows like a consistent appropriation and audit level over the last 4 years.
So has OFB been made aware of any plans to install streetlights in the poorly lit areas, or requests from either the executive branch, the mayor's council, or GPA to adjust the number or location of streetlights?
I believe, Senator, what happens here is that, the requested amount, especially in the EBR, takes into account all projected, all current and projected installments of streetlights going forward in the fiscal year. Again, that number is a fluid number. It goes up and down. I believe, if it wasn't in FY22, 23, I believe they installed like 700, 1,000 streetlights throughout the island. But it did not make a difference, I believe, in the appropriation. So I don't know how they're managing to offset it, but at least over the last 4 years, it's been consistent in terms of expenditures and in terms of appropriation.
Thank you for that. And then on that question, which agency is responsible for replacing the older streetlights with LED lights that cost less to operate?
I'm not too sure, Senator. I'm not privy to that, but the way my understanding is that the mayors are the ones that identify where these streetlights are supposed to be placed within the villages, and I believe they notify GPA, and GPA comes and does the actual installment, but GTA works in hand with the mayors to identify these locations, and that's the best of my knowledge.
Thank you for that. And then just one more question, Mr. Chair, if I may, regarding the T's and lease, how many more years are left in that agreement, and when can the government renegotiate these lease payments? And that again is for the T's and lease.
Senator, are you addressing that question to me or to the chairman?
To you, sir, or the panel, to you.
Yeah, I don't know, Senator. I don't have that information, and Yeah, but I can definitely look into it and
Please.
provide that to you.
Please, thank you, Mr. Chair. The reason for the line of questioning is, never leave any stone unturned. If there's an opportunity to look for resources, we're going to look for it to see what we can do, and just even as an update on what's happening to all these different programs that are out there. So thank you for the time that you've given me for this. I yield back.
Thank you, ma'am. Senator Barnett, you're recognized on round one, DOA.
Test. All right. Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. Sidos Masi. I just wanted to put on the record just some concerns from our constituents on the subject of the streetlights. And thank you, Mr. Guerrero. As we did a follow-up with DPW, I forget which hearing it was, but just on the process to get these streetlights up. And so I had asked DPW, what are you doing to get more streetlights? And then they had countered, we wait for the mayors to identify where in the villages they can put the streetlights and then work with GPA and putting them up. But I just want to, if I could, because I know our good mayors and their staff are watching, first of all, Dispensa, about your budget. I'm hoping that we can address that in the appropriate chapter with some amendments. But secondly, I would just ask if you are able to look around your village. There are areas, back road to Anderson, there's a long stretch of dark road that has no street lights. And I know that I asked Director Ariola about this, and he had kind of said, these street lights are far set off from the road, and maybe that's why it's dark, but I have eyes, and it's dark because there aren't any street lights. So I just kind of wanted to ask our mayors again to, check the Ville, find out where we can put some street lights and communicate with GPA so we can light up these roads. Bad enough the roads are the way they are, but it's made worse by, conditions that are poorly lit. And so just seeing these big sums of money that go to public street lights, I just wanted to kind of put that on the record on behalf of my constituents, Mr. Chair. And I'm not necessarily going to go down the line to all the villages, but I have got a lot of calls from these folks. So I just wanted to kind of put that in the mayor's ears. Sidos Masi.
Thank you, Senator. And yes, I believe they did start placing streetlights along Back Road. And then also, as the village mayors come in, they do communicate with the DPW as to not just where a streetlight needs to be, but streetlights that are out of order that get replaced, or lighting that gets replaced as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know it's the oversight of DPW. Maybe you could also, there was a concern I received from Mayor Tarlahi of Guåhan, and this was relative to which poles are able to be to have streetlights affixed to them. So maybe just offline, if you could follow up on that. I don't know if they can't put them on the wood poles, or it has to be concrete poles, or the metal ones. But there was just an ask from some of the mayors about that. Sidos Masi, Mr. Chair.
Definitely. Thank you, Senator Barnett. Senator Perez, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a point of information, I did a lot of research on the streetlight fund. I do have a bill that was supposed to address the shortfalls. Partly the problem is that there's many different jurisdictions when it comes to streetlights. So it's not just GPA, there's even private developers that are also responsible for streetlights. There's GVB, and so it's not, it's a hodgepodge. And when I did the FOIAs, there was lapse funds. The first time I did a FOIA, there was lapse funds, roughly about up to like $500,000. And then when I did a subsequent FOIA, then it got fully expended. So it seems to me that there is a need for more money to fund, continually to fund this need in the community. The other problem, I think, is we want to make sure that there's a centralized agency that oversees this. So to address this difference in jurisdictions, I think it's important to have one agency take the lead, and that's what this bill does. It's a DPW. But of course, in collaboration with GPA, who has the expertise to identify how far these streetlights and how many lumens are needed for proper lighting of our streets. And so I do hope that this bill gets a hearing. But since we're on the budget, I hope we also find funds to increase this important need. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Paris. Any other colleague on the DOA first round? Okay, DOA second round. Any colleague for DOA? Senator Paris.
Steve, I do recall when BBMR was in here, or Lester Carlson was here, that they identified there was a decrease. Can you basically confirm what was the executive budget request versus the current budget?
Yes, for the executive budget, their appropriation request was $13,738,122. In the bill, it's reflecting $12,038,609,000.
Okay, so one thing that DOE is really critical is the procurement. Does that decrease affect the procurement professionals?
I'm sorry, can you please?
So DOA has very important divisions, which one of them is the procurement division, or GSA. Does that decrease impact the ability of DOA to hire procurement professionals? And DOA, GSA is critical in ensuring that there's consistency and I guess they can expedite any kind of procurement. I think that's one of the issues that is affecting Guam is procurement, and to have the adequate amount of professionals is really critical for this agency. And I'm just wondering if this reduction impacts GSA.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't, Senator. We funded all the vacant positions for that division.
But I believe they requested additional funding for the additional personnel for GSA. And I think we all agreed in the budget hearing that that was great because we know that there is a need for it.
Again, like I said, the base for the FY2026 ceilings for the department agencies was that of a status quo for 25. We did consider, again, the organic growth with the retirement and benefits and increments, but for any new positions, we did not take that into consideration. But just to let you know also, Senator, they have 13 vacancies, which we did fund at $1 million.
Which division was that?
It's throughout the department, Senator.
Yeah, again, I believe they asked for additional funding to expand their GSA workforce. Was there any new sections? I feel like there's something new in this bill regarding the, or is everything status quo as far as the sections of this Part G?
Is there a specific section, Senator, you're referring to? Because I believe all the sections within the bill is identical to that to FY25.
Okay, so it's identical.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Paris. Any other member on round 2 DOA? No? Okay, we'll go to, I'm sorry. Senator Lahi, yeah, you have to use the hand mic.
Hello, thank you.
Yeah, just turn it on.
Hello,
There you go.
Mr. Chair.
You're
Mr.
recognized,
Guerrero,
ma'am.
could you please just clarify that about the 13 vacancies that were funded? Is that, you're saying in addition to their current funding levels that we added at 13, or you're just saying you continued with funding levels that included 13 vacancies?
You're correct, sir. It was reflected in the FY26 budget, but it's also those same positions that are in the 25.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate that. And this is, you're saying for GSA, a lot of them?
There, like I said, all the vacancies are throughout the departments of various programs. If you want me to just find out how many in procurement, I can.
I just thought you knew. Okay, that's all right. Well, I'm glad because, as you know, almost all of the other executive branch agencies, they go through DOA for procurement, they go through DOA for hiring, and almost all of their vacancies are stuck in the other agencies because of the hiring process and that they claim sometimes are backlogged at DOA. They also claim their purchase orders or procurement is backlogged at GSA. GSA sometimes denies that, so I don't know the real reason. We've tried to get to the bottom of that, but either way, I do believe that if there are vacancies at DOA that's handling our personnel hiring for all the agencies and handling procurement for all the agencies, that we should absolutely fund those and so that they can help all these other agencies, including, I am sure, the Veterans Affairs Office, the department that we've talked about already and that we're going to continue to talk about, that they continue to help them. Public health, especially, to get the hiring and the procurement done.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, that concludes the second round of Department of Administration. We're going to go ahead and go now to the next, which is Department of Revenue and Taxation. Page 66. Mr. Guerrero.
Thank you, Senator. For Department of Revenue Taxation, their total appropriation out of the general fund is $14,713,861. They also get funding out of the Better Public Service Fund of $1,402,033, and for the Tax Collection Enhancement Fund of $1,171,834, for a cumulative total of $17,287,728. They also get an additional $447,761 from the Banking Insurance Enforcement Fund to the Office of Commissioner of Banking Insurance. And that is the only appropriations the department gets.
Any questions on Department of Revenue and Taxation? Round one questions. Any questions for round two questions? There being none, Bureau of Statistics and Plans.
Okay, for the appropriation for Bureau of Statistics and Plans, the total general fund they're receiving is $1,973,531, and that is the only source of funds the department uses for its operation.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions, round one, for BSP? Senator Taitu, will you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve, can you tell me if they mentioned to you that they are going to be losing any federal funds for BSP because of any federal tax cuts? Or not tax cuts, I'm sorry, we're so into tax. Any federal cuts that they're going to be experiencing?
I believe there was conversation that I wasn't really privy to, but I heard that the Coastal Zone Management Program that they run under BSP might be affected by some of these federal cuts. The last I heard, there was nothing definite to that yet, but they were one of those programs that were identified that might be affected by it. All the other programs, I don't believe they administer, but they oversee, they help secure, but whether or not, but they don't operate out of BSOP.
Did they happen to tell you what that amount would be that would affect them?
No.
Okay. Also, is this a status quo from FY25?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so no increase at all?
No.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking too, because we know that there's a bunch of cuts and in critical areas too, especially with BSP, overseeing some environmental projects that are coming up, and also, they play in tandem with not just EPA, but Rev and Tax as well for information and data, as well as Guam. I think they receive funding for GVB or do some assessments for them, which takes away some of the costs from these other agencies and autonomous agencies. It's important we get data and research, and them losing some of these federal funds is something I think we need to be aware of. Even though they haven't come to us, they should have at least given OFB a number to look at that, so we can anticipate, and I'm sorry they didn't. So hopefully if they're listening to this, then please, submit, like the Veterans Affairs, their numbers to us and keep us up to date on what's going on. So it's important for us to receive that as a body that appropriates. So other than that, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to ask.
Thank you, Senator Tayui. Any other member? Okay, that closes out. Senator Parrish, you're recognized, ma'am.
Keep forgetting. So yeah, I remember there was, I think, a news article regarding the cuts to coastal zone management, and what we're funding them here is just what's partly needed by the agency, I believe. And so, do we know what the effect that would have? How do we know what the effect that would have on BSP? Would they just not have? Would they have to cut those positions? And how much more funding is needed? Because the coastal zone management is critical when we're talking about the military buildup. Because, as you know, they have oversight of the federal consistency, which is part of the buildup process, the consultative process. And so without that, just like defunding Guam EPA, it's, we're talking about huge impact in regards to our government in responding to environmental impacts, huge environmental impacts from the military buildup. So has there been any talk with BSP regarding additional funding that's needed? Because I think it's unconscionable to not have that voice within our government. We know in this administration and past administrations how critical this was to really speak up for what's happening to our island in regards to impacts. And these are federal laws, by the way, federal laws that require any kind of federal action has to take into account the impacts of of the environment. And so again, the local government has to fill in what the federal government is taking away for now. So I just would like perhaps any kind of a response to that. Thank you.
Senator, if I recall, when Stephanie Flores was here from the Clearinghouse, coastal zone management was one of those programs she identified that would probably be affected by these cuts, but no concrete, or at least no definite number was provided, at least to me, through OFB, to indicate, additional funding that might be required, because I do recall she maybe mentioned 3 or 4 different programs that might be affected, but none of those programs right now are being considered, at least within the bill, should something happens to their funding in the near future.
So how many jobs are at stake here? And what's the cost to the local government?
I don't have the, again, coastal zone management is a 100% federally funded program. I can get you that information, but I don't have that right with me now.
So I'm getting the information, it's $818,000 for coastal zone alone. So I don't know what the other programs are going to cost. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Perez. Senator Barnett, you raised your hands? No. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So that would conclude BSP. Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Terlahi, you're recognized.
Yeah, we did receive from the Guam State Clearinghouse, which handles all the federal grants, information on what we had already finished our revenue section, I believe. Sorry, now it went away. Yeah, and so she did give us for that date the amounts of federal funds that they had been able to confirm that would be lost. And so she gave us a list for FY25. She says these are the amounts that were lost as well as the amounts at jeopardy for the next 2 fiscal years. So for FY25, she said Guam EPA, $12,547,000. Department of Military Affairs, Star-Based Program, $793,000. Guam Energy Office Solar for All Program, $62,450,000. Public Broadcasting Service, $978,000. For 26 and 27, she says, Public Health and Social Services Preschool Development Grant, $4.5 million. SNAP Administrative Grant, $1.5 million. Immunization Grant, $354,000. And the Office of Infrastructure and Policy Development, this is the Digital Equity Capacity Grant and Competitive Grant.
Point of inquiry. Where's this list from? And was it, you said, gave us? Who's us?
It says it was sent to the Honorable Christopher Dueñas, Chairman, Committee on Finance.
Can we please have a copy of this list, all senators?
Yes,
Mr.
Senator,
Chair?
you can just go ahead and have a copy presented to the committee, and then we'll distribute it to all the members.
I think this is, the committee has this, yeah. I just received an extra copy from her, but I think she sent it to the committee. Yeah. Yes, because she discussed this when she was here. Where am I? Public Health, Office of Infrastructure, and then the Infrastructure and Policy Development Office, that was 2.1 and 2.5 million. And the Historic Preservation Office, Survey and Planning, 484,000. And the Coastal Zone Management Program, 818,000. So total affected funds, she totaled it 89,159,000. Thank you. So yeah, I'm equally concerned about BSP, particularly the Coastal Zone Management, just because they do a lot of the reviews. So when the Land Use Commission has projects before them, it's the Coastal Zone Management that has actually, to me, been very, very diligent. They actually do the reviews. They put in their some very good work as to the impacts of those potential developments on our coastal zones in particular. And as you know, our coastal zones are our economy. They are what makes Guam, Guam. They're what attracts tourists. They're what builds our economy, and our protection of those is in the best interest of all the people of Guam. So I just want to put that on the record so that we can, as we go forward, we're going to have to find this funding that they're losing in FY26, it looks like, of $818,000 just for this program alone. Siduswasi, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Terlahi. That will conclude the round for BSP. We're going to go into Public Works, Section J, Public Works.
For Department of Public Works, their total general fund appropriation is $4,114,670. They get an appropriation from the Guam Highway Fund of $10,274,822. From the Guam Education Facility Fund, they get an appropriation of $7,907,558 for a grand total of $22,297,050. They also get $1.5 million from the Guam Highway Fund, For the road maintenance, and that's all the appropriation DPW is expecting to get for FY26.
Thank you, Steve. On Department of Public Works, Senator Tadigui, you're recognized. First round.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'd like to thank you and OFB for incorporating a higher amount to the road repairs. In the past, it's only been $500,000, and we all know that per mile, it's $1.8 million per mile to even build a road. You can imagine the cost on repairs of roads on our island. So this has increased from previous budgets, and I greatly appreciate to see that's done. I still have legislation out there for $10 million because, you know, it's actually needed. I mean, that's not even going to cover, you know, 1/4 of $10 million on the road repairs on this island. But starting off at $2 million, I'm really pleased to see this happening, and I hope that my colleagues still will support the much more needed revenue to repair our roads and make it safe for our island. So I just wanted to make a comment on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Tadigui. On Public Works, round one. Senator Terlahi, you're recognized.
Thank you. Can the director please confirm is the Guam Highway funds that are being appropriated here, is there any other balance in the Guam Highway Fund that's not being appropriated?
And the total appropriation we're projecting is 11 million?
This is the level for Guam Highway for 26, yeah.
Of that. So the sum of 6 and this is the sum. Yes, Senator, to your question is, there's only 2 agencies that are funded out of the Guam Highway. One is DPW at the 10.2 million. And to DOA to pay for the street lights. So the total appropriation from the Guam Highway Fund to Public Works represents 93% of the total fund for the Guam Highway Fund.
All right. So are we able to appropriate the balance of that for DPW for streets? Street repair? I think we did that in one fiscal year.
There's no balance, right?
I'll let you check on that, but the other, I guess, concern that I had was there was an article in today's paper written by the Deputy Director of Public Works talking about we're supposed to have 180 bus drivers, but in actuality we have 80 bus drivers. And that the issue that they're having is they can't compete, the wages that are set cannot compete for bus drivers. I guess there's a demand for them across the island and with the buildup. And so she's saying this impacts, of course, the services being provided to the people of Guam, the children, the students, and the double sessions at DOE are exacerbating that because of the wear and tear on the buses and the fuel that these bus drivers or the buses require. So I know that, you know, when we reduce the liquid fuel tax, it was to benefit all of the, you know, consumers of gas at the gas stations. Does this highway fund, your estimate of it, it's an increase, and so that's an increase despite the liquid fuel tax continuing to be reduced, or is the liquid fuel tax increased according to your calculations? I mean, does this bill dispense of the liquid fuel tax reduction?
Senator, I think when we discussed the projection last year, we took into account the adjustment in the liquid fuel tax and what we anticipated. Just to let you know, in the Budget Act for FY25, we projected almost 13 million. We are tracking 15.9 million at the moment. So that, I mean, yes, I can understand your concern, but, and we did consider what we knew at the time when we did the projection, and it is showing that we are tracking
That's great. That's good
above.
news.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
it continues to go higher despite the reduction for consumers for liquid fuel tax. I'm very happy about that. I guess I just want to ask you, did you fund vacant positions here for bus drivers? Are they still funded in case they're able to get more, or have you zeroed those out?
Give me 1 second to make sure we're talking about bus drivers now. Senator, to answer your question, whatever positions they had for bus drivers in FY25 that was not filled, we rolled it over into FY26, and we funded all of them.
Jesus Masi, thank you, and appreciate your work on this. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Susmasi Senator on Public Works Round 1. Public Works Round 1, DPW Round 1. Round 2, Public Works. Senator Tadegui, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve, can you tell me if there is a balance in the funds that were appropriated from the Guam Highway Fund in September, I believe? This was the Public Law 36-107, FY23. And it was appropriated $10,628,742 for road repairs. And this balance of the Guam Highway Fund as of September 30, 2022, which was appropriated DPW for the purpose of additional village streets and road resurfacing. So my question is there any balance in that left over that they have not fulfilled that obligation?
You reference FY23, Senator?
Yes, I believe it was. It was for our budget bill, FY23.
Give me a moment. I'll see if I can pull it out. Yes, Senator, as of the September 30th, 2023 CER report, there is a balance of about 1.8 million.
That has yet to be utilized.
It just shows us as an available balance as of September 30th of 2023.
Okay, so September 23, but what is the latest update on that account? Is there remaining in FY25? It still has not been expended?
I would have to go to, I'm looking at the CER for FY23, but let me see if I can go to FY25 to see if they carried over and see whether or not they exhausted it.
Okay.
I think the 24, right? This is 24. Okay, go to the 25 for some reason. Sure. Yes, Senator, looking at the 24 and 25 CR at the end of each fiscal year, it is reflective in the 24 and I don't see it in the 25. So I don't know whether, well, that, I know the account existed in FY23 at the end of the fiscal year, but what its status is today, it's not showing in these reports.
I'm sorry, it's not showing.
It's not showing in the CR report for 24 as of September 30th, nor in 25 today.
Okay, if you're saying it's not showing, that means they expended the full amount?
The account is not showing at all.
Oh, okay. So maybe we can, Mr. Chair, find out later on, find out if there's that funding still available. So appreciate if we can get that information later on. Thank you.
Sure, we'll see what OFB can do. On DPW round 2, seeing and hearing no folks, we will take a recess now for lunch and be back at 1 p.m. We are in recess.